I can't believe this, but I think Red Bull just threw away the chance for Max Verstappen to become the 2025 F1 Drivers' Champion because they played 4D chess when they should have played 8D chess. And I don't know if they still had the likes of Christian Horner, they would have done this because it would have been more controversial, but I need to explain what Red Bull did and then the critical step that they missed. So firstly, they play some 4D chess here, okay? Straight out of the Abu Dhabi 2021 rulebook, where Perez was playing this role in the race. Remember, Perez was 7 seconds slower in the race to slow down Lewis Hamilton. Here, Tsunoda is about to start his flying lap. So he's just on his out lap, and now he's going to start his flying lap, okay? Now, just like Perez in 2021 in the race, Tsunoda is going to completely sacrifice himself for Max Verstappen. So Tsunoda is actually going to slow down here into the hairpin and let Max Verstappen catch up. And what that's going to do, because Max Verstappen is also now starting his flying lap, is going to give Max Verstappen the best possible slipstream you have ever seen in your life. And Tsunoda executes this perfectly. You're going to see this could not have been executed any better, in my opinion. So Verstappen comes round the hairpin there at turn 5. He's now got a lovely slipstream through the first DRS zone. He's got DRS wide open. You can see he's going up past 320 kilometers an hour. Almost touching. In fact, he does go over 331 kilometers an hour down the back straight. So you can compare that with other drivers. And then Tsunoda's still here for the second DRS zone. And Tsunoda just pulls out perfectly. It literally could not be any more perfect. In fact, it's so perfect that they definitely practiced this in the simulator. So when Max Verstappen has been saying all weekend, I'm super relaxed, not that bothered about championship fight, lies. They have been practicing this in the sim and they executed it perfectly. Okay. And what that's going to mean is two interesting things. One, Verstappen is going to do a lap time that no one can beat. He's going to do, I think, a 22.2. And secondly, McLaren can't compete with this. Why not? Because McLaren have to do papaya rules. They have to treat both drivers equally at this stage. However, if they were to do that and basically say, for example, Oscar, you're going to give Lando a tow in the first lap, and then in the second flying lap, Lando, you're going to give Oscar a tow. Whoever that second driver is that needs to get a tow is not going to get it because the first driver is going to break rules. So they couldn't put the drivers in that position because they knew papaya rules were going to be broken. So we end up in a position where Verstappen does a 2.95 lap time, 0.295, which is just basically unbeatable. So Norris is going to come around on the McLaren that's been super fast all season. He is half a second off, which is a huge amount of time, and Piastri is going to be there or thereabouts again. So what I'm going to do now, this is where Red Bull have really messed up, okay? And let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with what I'm about to say. Because we now go to the second final set of laps in Q3, okay? So Piastri at the moment is in P2 at 22.6, Norris at 22.7, but Verstappen's got the 22.2. Now, McLaren should be giving a slipstream, but they're not going to do that. Verstappen comes out here. There is no point Verstappen setting a flying lap here because he cannot be caught. Without that slipstream, we've seen the sector times all weekend. I've been keeping an eye on them. He cannot be caught, okay? It's just impossible in my view. So Verstappen at this point should be giving a slipstream to George Russell. Because if he gives a slipstream to George Russell, potentially George Russell, who was first in Q1 and first in Q2, could jump the McLarens and George Russell could start in P2. Similar with Tsunoda. Tsunoda should also either be getting a slipstream from Verstappen if they don't want to give it to Russell, or Tsunoda should be giving a slipstream to someone else. Maybe to Fernando Alonso, because Alonso's been looking really quick all weekend, setting some blistering sector times. But they don't do it. Verstappen is in no man's land here. Have a look where Verstappen is compared to where Tsunoda was ahead of Verstappen. So Verstappen is not giving any slipstream to George Russell. It's just not going to work. So I'm just going to zoom forward a little bit. Okay, so here we go. Starting the final laps here. Verstappen is too far ahead of George Russell. So Verstappen's on that flying lap. He's not going to slow down like Tsunoda did. He's going to absolutely breeze around turn 5 where he overtook Hamilton in 2021. And Russell is just not going to be getting a close enough slipstream. And the crazy thing is, Russell has been so fast all weekend. If you look at Russell's speed trap down that straight, if Russell had a perfect slipstream, Russell would have been much, much, much quicker down that back straight than most other cars because he's already topping out at 331 and that's without a perfect slipstream. Meanwhile, Tsunoda is in no man's land. Tsunoda is basically doing nothing right now. Tsunoda is not achieving anything, and this isn't like Abu Dhabi 2021, where Perez in the second Red Bull was miles quicker than any other car apart from Verstappen and Hamilton. Remember, Bottas was nowhere that day. Tsunoda is just literally, I don't know what they're doing with Tsunoda. And this is why I say if Christian Horner was still in the team and this strategy on the table, maybe they would have used Tsunoda to help Alonso or help Leclerc. As it is, Verstappen is going to improve on his lap time, which is absolutely crazy. So Verstappen is such a clear margin ahead here, and that's partly because he's able to use a new engine from Brazil. The McLarens cannot compete with that. And George Russell is going to go over at 22.6, but if he'd had a slipstream of 0.2 or so down the back straight, he would have jumped the McLarens. And if he jumps the McLarens, it puts McLaren in a really difficult position because they can't tell Piastri to push on Norris, because they can't afford Norris to drop back into P4 and then none of their drivers are in a world championship winning position. At the moment, as it stands, Lando is in a world championship winning position and McLaren want to keep it that way. So that's why I think Red Bull and Verstappen could have played 8D chess. They had nothing to lose with Tsunoda and they could have got Russell up there. Russell wasn't going to go quicker than Verstappen, clearly, but Russell could have gone faster than McLaren's. So make sure to subscribe if you like my weekly strategy videos like this we're doing, and I'll see you in the live stream tomorrow.